What is going on, guys? Today, we're going to be talking about something that honestly I don't even really know how I feel about, so I'm kind of just going to throw out the information that we have on this topic and share my ideas of what kind of goes through my mind when I think about it. The thing I want to talk about is how strong Fujitora and Ryokugyu are in comparison to the other admirals, or at the very least to Kizaru. Probably best just to do Kizaru because I feel like those three aren't really balanced. I think that Akainu and Aokiji are a little bit stronger than Kizaru. They're more even and he's not so much, so I guess we're just going to talk about Kizaru here since those are the three new admirals. So it seems to me that a lot of people believe that Fujitora and Ryokugyu are noticeably less powerful than Kizaru. I really do get that feeling because the original three are like the trifecta, and then two of them ended up leaving, so they needed to quickly fill those positions, and it's like the first three have such ridiculously overpowered devil fruits that how could anyone possibly be as powerful as them? But at this point, for one thing, we haven't even seen what Ryokugyu completely looks like, so what can we really say about him? We don't even know what his devil fruit is. And the things that we saw in Dressrosa, I feel are actually pretty decent evidence to suggest that perhaps they are as strong as Kizaru. For starters, Fujitora lifted the entirety of the rubble in Dressrosa and just sent it over to the ocean without even breaking a sweat. Another very key part, and this is where things get kind of tricky and very contentious to say the least, his battle with Sabo was quite telling of his power in my opinion. I am of the belief that with the acquisition of the fire fruit, now in reverie let's say, after he's had some time to get experienced with it, Sabo is most likely Admiral level. So then the question remains, since he had just barely had any time to use his devil fruit when he was fighting against Fujitora, how strong was he at that point? I like to imagine, in consideration of the fact that he was second only to Dragon among the revolutionaries, that he probably had future sight as well as advanced armament hockey. I actually would go as far as to say that the latter was confirmed with the way he destroyed the Colosseum in Dressrosa. That just seemed like clear-cut advanced armament to me, but some people don't believe that's confirmation, so I don't know about that one. So with Luffy barely being able to use either of the advanced hockeys, and Sabo being, from what I can tell, pretty proficient in advanced armament at least, I would say that he has to be at least as powerful as the current Luffy that we are seeing in these current chapters. That is pretty freaking strong as far as the entire One Piece world goes. It's not quite Admiral level, but that's not the end of it either. Sabo then goes on to acquire one of the most powerful devil fruits in the entire series. He doesn't really know how to use any of its special abilities, but it is pretty insane just by itself. So while I definitely would not call him Admiral level immediately after getting the fruit, I would say that he could put up at least a decent fight against them. So if all of that is good and reasonable, then Fujitora's looking pretty good considering that he fought Sabo with barely any effort at all whatsoever. You could tell just by watching, and Sabo even commented on it himself. The last important thing that happened in Dressrosa, and this is overlooked a lot, I don't know why, I find it really interesting. I mean, I don't know exactly what it could imply, but Dofi says to Fujitora, he comments on how he is one of the new admirals and that they are supposed to be true beasts. Like, I couldn't imagine it being possible, but that would seem to imply that they are maybe even stronger than the admirals we have seen up until this point. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think there's any way they could be stronger than the original admirals, but that is quite a statement. I mean, why would Oda throw that in there? They're true beasts? That's okay, that's definitely a really ridiculous thing to say. Another thing I'd like to point out is Ryokugyu's devil fruit. Now, the fact of the matter is, we don't actually know what his devil fruit is. We can assume that it's probably going to have something to do with green, but that's about it. That assumption actually is really important though, because at least as far as I've come up with, that leads us to two possible devil fruits that he could have. The first possibility I see is that it could be some kind of plant fruit. I don't know what plant it would be, or if it would be like all plants, he can just control plants or something, I'm not entirely sure, but it does make sense considering we know it has to be green related, as well as the fact that he said he hasn't eaten in like 3 years or something. Now, if you were new to One Piece and you heard about a fruit like this, you might think that that doesn't sound very good, but you know, we're on chapter 962 now. We know that that is actually insane. If he has some kind of plant fruit where he's just a fucking plant, it's going to be broken off the charts. Have you guys heard of the rubber fruit? Yeah, it turns out that that fruit's pretty shitty unless you figure out how to absolutely optimize it, which turns out the main character did. But, you know, that just means that it's probably very possible to do something like that with a plant fruit or something. This is One Piece. This is Oda we're talking about. This guy is an admiral. If he is a plant, it's going to be an insanely broken fruit, I can promise you. And then the second thing I could think of is it would be some kind of time fruit. I'm not really sure how likely I think that is. It would make sense with green because green has obviously a lot to do with nature, and there's been a lot of combinations of time and nature in these kinds of series. I don't really need to explain to you how that would be overpowered. Basically, anything that has to do with time is always overpowered if it can be applied in combat, and since he's Admiral, yeah, it's going to be combat related. So that's one of the things that's making me lean away from that, as well as the fact that now we know Toki also has some kind of time fruit. So I doubt there's going to be more than one, if one at all. I definitely am leaning towards the plant fruit. I think that is a very real possibility for sure, and I think if it is the case, then it's going to be super overpowered and would probably be comparable to the light fruit or something. I'm not even kidding. The way he uses it, I guarantee, is going to be insane. And if it turns out to be some kind of time-related fruit, well, again, I don't really need to explain why that would be overpowered. That's just ridiculous. These also both fit into a trio balance kind of thing. The one thing could be, well, if we have a Logia and a Paramecia and a Zone, which would be a plant zone, of course, then it would be like they all kind of are super powerful in their respective category of Devil Fruit. And alternatively, and way cooler in my opinion, although it would be kind of fucked up because again, anything with the time fruit would be pretty bad. Originally, we had the first three Admirals with a theme of primary colors with ridiculous Logias, right? They all had Logias and they were based on the primary colors, so that made sense. But now, if we were going to get crazy here, if we're going to have a new theme, we could have a space-time theme, which would be super cool. We have Kizaru with light, which is super important in physics. We have Fujitora with gravity, again, basically the same concept. And then if we were going to have Ryokugyu have a time fruit, then that would fit in perfectly. So I don't know, maybe even if it did do that, they could like combine their abilities in some ridiculous way. That would be insane. I really don't even want to see that. That seems like it'd be a little too powerful to me, but it would be a cool theme for sure. So yeah, that's basically all the information we have on these guys, and the portrayal, at least as far as what I'm seeing Oda's trying to do. The biggest reason, honestly, I wanted to make this video is I wanted to hear your guys' opinion on this. I personally think that it seems more likely at this point that Fujitora and Ryokugyu are probably about as strong as Kizaru. I don't think there's any reason to really think that they're weaker. But I think that's an unpopular opinion. I feel like so often I hear, well, of course, you know, they're weaker than the original Admirals, and I can see that for sure, but I want to see what you guys think. So leave me a comment letting me know what you think. I'm really going to be eyeing this comment section because, again, I am excited to hear your guys' opinion on this topic. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. With that all being said, I hope you guys have an excellent rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.